doing the work, and being willing to execute. Now, that obviously does come with some thought process and making sure you actually have a plan. But to a certain extent, man, you just got to do the work. You just got to get in there, And too many people are scared to do the work nowadays.
This is the Basu Lifestyle Show. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel.
For those people who don't really know you, who are you, what's your name, and what do you actually do?
My name is Joe Lacerra. I am the owner of Real Training, which stands for Ready to Execute, Always Learning. So I own a personal training company that works out of Wolf Fitness in Brigantine. So that is where all of our in-person training is located. And then Real Training also houses all of my online coaching, which spans not only Gen Pop, but also contest prep for bodybuilders. It could be posing coaching for them as well. So it's the full scope of all my training.
Okay, and how'd you actually get into the whole bodybuilding? Because you were a bodybuilder before you started training bodybuilders. So how did that come to be?
So bodybuilding came to be kind of as an exit strategy from martial arts. So background on me, I started in martial arts. That's where I guess the physical fitness aspect started. And if you speak to any bodybuilder, they usually played a sport or did some type of martial art, and bodybuilding is now their new competitive outlet. So I did martial arts all the way up from age 4 to about 19 or 20. And then from there, it just kind of reached a point where I just needed something new, something interesting. The gym was something I found in high school just as a habit of lifting for martial arts, and played a little bit of baseball as well, but nothing super competitive, and just kind of fell in love with training in the process. And then when I needed a new competitive outlet for martial art, that's when bodybuilding really took hold.
Okay, and how old were you then?
When did I do my first show? My first show was in 2000. I did a couple shows in 2014, just sort of teen physique competitions. So I guess you could count that as my competitive debut, but I really found competitive bodybuilding just as a whole in 2016. And that's when I found, that there was a drug tested natural side to the sport as well. Cause those teen physique shows that I did back in 2014 were just with non-tested federations. So I just kind of jumped in. I didn't really know any better. So then a couple years later, I would say that's when I officially started competing.
So what made you not want to jump into taking more substances and stuff? Why do you want to be the natural route and not the huge monster route?
Just for overall health, man. I mean, I say it all the time. I want my wife and I have a beautiful 8-month-old daughter, and I want her and my grandkids to see me compete one day. I'm going to be that guy doing the 60 plus and hopefully 70 plus classes. And just from a longevity and health perspective, I've always wanted to keep it the natural route. Obviously, of course, in social media, there's always the temptation of, wanting to be that mass monster and wanting to take things to the next level. But for me, that doesn't grant me any satisfaction, that's not to take anything away from anybody that wants
no
to
disrespect
go that
to
route.
The people in that sport. They're putting a lot of time and energy still into their bodies, not even from the substances, but just they're still having the same dedication. It's just it's the same kind of outcome, just on a grander scale. So it's not taken away from it. It's just you just chose a different path.
Absolutely.
And it's not like lifelong, right? I mean, you usually do a couple of shows if you're taking all that, and then at some point you kind of have to stop. You don't really want to take it forever.
Well, that's like
so
kind of the dark side of the
point.
sport, right? It's kind of now being talked a lot more about, because you have these very young, brilliant, and amazing stars in the bodybuilding sport coming up. They're in their 20s and 30s, and they're unfortunately passing away. Multitude of reasons. You can't put it all on the gear, but I mean, there's a common denominator there between their age and what they're on, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah. I mean, a couple guys have had heart attacks lately, like in their 30s.
And knowing that it's all 100% choice, I mean, that's, to me, it's your life. You're not hurting anybody else by doing this but yourself. So I don't think that it's anything that, I take nothing away from those people. Like, you do what you do, you fucking look amazing, and you take a lot of risk. So while it's not for me, I still respect the grind.
Absolutely.
True. What do you think is kind of the difference? So, like, most people always get into bodybuilding as their kind of escape, and then they fall in love with it. What was the difference between that and like martial arts? Because I never even got into martial arts. So, like, how do you compare the two of them in terms of like a mental workout?
So the parallel that I draw between martial arts and bodybuilding is neither of which are team sports. They're both sports where you're responsible to do 100% of the work. Now, granted, it's a brotherhood in and outside of it. So obviously in martial arts, we'd go to class and, we'd spar and we'd train with other people. Just like in bodybuilding, you might have a training partner, or you might have, coaches or things like that, just like you'd have an instructor in martial arts. But at the end of the day, no one's going to do the work for you. You have to, put in the hours training, just like in martial arts. You're the one sparring. There's nobody that can come in and tag team the sparring match for you. It's all on you. So that's the reason I guess I was drawn to bodybuilding, is it was very similar to martial arts in that regard, where you have to rely only on your own work.
So win or lose, it's all on you.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that you are a very, I want to say well-versed coach, almost to the point where like you're the vice president of the AMBF, right?
That's correct.
So your opinion matters a lot in this sport. When you see where it was when you came into the sport in 2014 or 2016, how have you seen the progression from people at your age back then getting into the sport, and is it easier for them to get into it now? Is there more traction for it? Because bodybuilding went through this phase where it was mainstream, then underground, then not spoken about, and now there's kind of this like renaissance of it where it's like, yeah, it's everywhere that you look, and I think it's amazing. But has the process changed, in your opinion, that much in the last decade of your involvement?
So I think with just the everywhere you look on social media, there's different outlets and things like that. And obviously you hope everybody's telling the truth. Obviously with social media, you take everything with a grain of salt, but you hope people that are putting out.
You mean with like what their actual package is?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So you would hope if they're saying, and we kind of went through a little bit of that actually 8 to 10 years ago, where there was a lot of this, kind of fake natty stuff going on where people were claiming natural, but a lot of that's kind of died out now, thankfully. So people that are, putting out that they are natural competitors really are, because we've kind of snuffed a lot of that out. So I think more people now are realizing what's actually achievable naturally, which is a beautiful thing.
Sure.
And it makes it known that, you see the younger person coming in, breaking in. So you take me 10 years ago, there wasn't that much presence about it. But now, fast forward to now, the 18-year-old who opens up Instagram or TikTok, and they can look and they can see a ton of really good looking natural physiques, because we now just have the platforms to broadcast those things on those social media platforms. And then they can look at that and go, okay, so this is achievable naturally. Like I want to look like that. So there is a path to go that route. And I think just having that information available now, and people that, put out content in that natural space, it's easier for people to find out that there is a natural route. Like I said, the first 2 shows that I did were in non-tested federations because I didn't know any better, because it wasn't really that well broadcasted, that well advertised. And then I kind of stumbled on it 2 years later. Now, natural bodybuilding is a lot, it's still not quite as big as non-tested bodybuilding. And we're kind of hopefully working towards that as a whole, to at least get it on the same, level of eyes. But it's much easier for younger people now to know that, okay, there is a platform for drug tested competition, and I want to be part of that, because I'd rather be on a level playing field. If I'm not going to use any substances,
sure,
I'd rather compete on a level playing field.
So where do you see that money coming from to get onto that, like, national, like not national, but yeah, worldwide level of like the other federations that do have larger prize purses and bigger sponsorships? Obviously, because a lot of that is people going to see the show, seeing what these people can do and have done. How do you guys see, how do you, in your opinion, see the sport getting that kind of support and traction where they can monetize it and pay the athletes more to be natural?
Sure.
And I think that's really one of the biggest ways bodybuilders in general can start saving other bodybuilders' lives, is finding a way to kind of put the money into the natural side as well, not taking it from the other, but putting some money into it, one, just for athlete safety.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the biggest issues that we see in natural bodybuilding now is division of federation, because everybody has a little bit of different mindset and standards on exactly how drug testing should be done, or, should it be urinalysis only? Should there be a polygraph component? This and that. So everybody kind of has a little bit of a different opinion, which does lead to a little bit of divide in the natural side of the sport. So you do have, I would say, 8 to 12 main federations across the country. Whereas if you compete in the untested side, it's the NPC to the IFBB. It's right. One unified federation. So until the natural side can kind of put down their swords together, and all come together, I don't see it making much of a change. Now, we do have a few shows out, one of which being that I'll be at with several clients next weekend, being the Mr. America. It's an unsanctioned event, which is the beautiful thing about it. So basically, the concept behind Mr. America, it was the first, contest of its kind. We wouldn't have Mr. Olympia, anything like that, without Mr. America. And it sort of started the whole thing. So now Mr. America is a drug tested event with WADA guidelines. And it's, look, I don't care what organization you're a member of. We're all going to come compete together, bang heads, and see who's truly the best of the best when it comes to natural competitors. And I think that's kind of spearheading things in the right direction to at least, again, get a day where all the organization heads can kind of put their swords down and all sort of come
Right.
together for the greater good of the sport. And I hope if we continue to walk towards that and kind of all come to a little bit of an agreement on things, because if I look at it this way, if all the natural federations join forces, then you get those eyeballs, and it'll be on a much more level playing field. And again, I'm not trying to do this to take any money from the untested side of the sport. It's not that. I think they can coexist, but obviously I think we can get more eyes on the natural side.
I agree.
Yeah, you're playing two different games. I mean, you could tell the difference. I mean, think about any muscle magazine from back in the day that was selling supplements. There was not a single natural person in those magazines.
No.
For the most part, I mean, they were talking about the protein they take. If I took this protein, I gained 20 pounds. I mean, it was such like a scam for like
it was just the protein.
Yeah, exactly. And we were like 15, like
The
it was like
magic of
my
marketing.
age group, and you're just like, oh man, I'm gonna get that protein.
Yeah.
Shit wasn't gonna do that no matter what you did.
I was to say, take your cell tech, and you're going to gain 20 pounds of muscle in 6 weeks. And it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's just not realistic. What do you think is more important in terms of getting your physique down? Is it going to be the nutrition part? Is it going to be the training part? Or are they both like 50-50?
So as far as manipulation of a physique, that is where I believe nutrition is the key. And I tell people this, that my training really doesn't change much year round. Whether I'm trying to put on size, I'm trying to diet down for a competition, my training is pretty consistent year round. It's, because I'm a firm believer in what builds muscle keeps muscle. So, and we're kind of dispelling a lot of those myths now, and you used to see more of them, but it was the whole, okay, you have to lift heavy to put on muscle. You have to do light weights and high reps to cut. And a lot of people are now kind of finally coming to terms that was complete bullshit, that's not, that's not real.
It was opinion, which opinions are great. If that's how you want to train, go fucking do it. But don't tell me it's a scientific fact.
Right. Do what you enjoy in the gym.
Yeah, just go do it. You don't need to tell me one way or the other. Have fun.
Right. I'm going to continue doing my thing. So I found I was getting a lot because, I've tried everything under the sun, when it comes to training and, getting ready for a bodybuilding show. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way. And that's honestly how I've learned, is just trying stuff. So that's kind of where my, brand sort of comes from, just, segueing into that. It's like execution and learning. Too many people are just afraid to try stuff because they always want the perfect split or the perfect this or the perfect diet. To a certain extent, you have to, take the data that you have in front of you, but then you actually have to apply it, and you have to get in the gym and get your hands dirty and execute a little bit. And then you take a step back after you've followed said program for, 6, 8, 12 weeks, whatever. And then, okay, what did we learn from that? What went right? What went wrong? So, but to tie it back together, honestly, manipulating a physique comes down to, nutrition, 100%. Not that training's not important, because obviously that's the stimulus and that's the the vehicle that'll carry you there. But what actually causes a change in the physique is what I do with my nutrition. Whether I'm trying to, like I said, put on size, diet down for a show, either or, that's just scaling my nutrition up and down either way.
Yeah.
So get a little deeper into that. How are you scaling it if somebody wants to gain muscle or if they're trying to get more ripped? Just for two sides of people.
Simple equation of energy balance, honestly. So a lot of people like to say calories in, calories out. I like to break it down even more to a further level of energy balance. So it's energy in versus energy output. So obviously, if somebody's trying to put on size and go into a caloric surplus, they need to have a little bit more energy, coming in than they're burning, and vice versa. If they're trying to lose body fat, they need to have a little bit more output than input.
What's the metric for output and input if we're not using calories as the metric for defining energy expenditure?
Well, so calories is still the method in. I just like to break it into that energy in versus energy out, just to encompass the whole equation. Because the problem is, if you just say calories in, calories out, that's where you get people starving themselves and creating a poor relationship with food. So, and I'm not one also that thinks you can't out train a bad diet either. So it's kind of the full encompassing scale. So energy in is obviously your calories that you take in, within your macros, which are your proteins, carbs, and fats. And then your energy output obviously comes from your weight training in the gym and your, your cardio, your general non-exercise activity, just you moving around the day, all that considered.
So you do tie in your like TDEE before working out. So all that, whatever your body's going to burn just from being in existence, is tied into also the energy output.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're just kind of retraining and reassimilating people's brain with, instead of being stuck on the word calories, let's just look at energy. We can use calorie as a metric or a vehicle to define the energy, but it's what do you actually do from A to B?
Bingo. Because too many people will just get caught up on the calories in, calories out thing, And then again, just you get to these people that just
I like
get to the
that
point of starving
because,
themselves.
like you said, they create poor relationship with food. So that makes sense now. That's why that was my first question. So what's the
Yeah.
defining metric for the energy? So it's still calories, but it's just not the one you don't have to worry about every almond. We're talking about what you actually. Okay.
And then regardless, either way, you're probably always prioritizing protein, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's usually getting people's macro ratios to kind of fall correctly. Now, not that I use a specific percentage with everybody, because I have people that are, more keen to diet on higher carbohydrates, more keen to diet on higher dietary fats. Protein's a metric, though, that is going to remain relatively high as a whole percentage-wise. Especially for my bodybuilders, I like to sit at least at that kind of gram per pound of body weight. That's sort of your industry standard. Now, for the Gen Pop person, is it necessary to be that high? Probably not. They can probably get away with maybe 0.7 grams per pound of body weight at the end of the day, because also, why would I overconsume protein when carbs are delicious? And if I can fit more macros with carbohydrates, usually that's going to lead to a human being that not only will have better workouts because they're just going to have more fuel for those sessions, but they're just going to enjoy the dieting process more than just eating 50% of their calories from protein. It just, it's not really necessary at that point. But you will see a lot of people come in on the Gen Pop side of things that, are just generally pretty low protein. Because it's just not how their brain has been trained. Like when they were building their meals as a child, you put the plate down. Usually the carb went on the plate first for a lot of those people.
Yeah, if you look at the food pyramid, it was like this, and the whole
it's all
bottom
those
was
grains
greens.
at the bottom, and then let's get to the top and have a little sliver of that. And it was just, so everybody's brain is just, again, kind of trained a little backwards when it comes to that. Now, obviously on the bodybuilder side of things, oftentimes I pull their protein down. Because some of them think, okay, protein is the vehicle to hold muscle. I'm going to over consume protein now, and then that could lead to digestive issues or all different types of things. So it's about trying to bring them to a spot that makes sense, that allows them, again, a little bit of nutritional freedom, and again, better training performance and just better life altogether. There's no reason why you have to suffer. Yeah, at a certain degree, if you're in a calorie deficit or a bodybuilding show, you're going to be hungry and you're just going to have to accept that. But it doesn't have to be this, exodus of suffering. I love when bodybuilders are like, oh, I got to suffer. I got to go through the grind. I'm like, man, you have no idea. One, you're doing this by choice. Two, you can go eat whenever you want. No one's forcing you. And there's people in third world countries that are actually starving. Like, just because you're on 100 grams of carbs, you are not starving. Like, get over yourself. It's
and stop. I mean, how many weeks do you actually have to go like crazy low for the show? I mean, how many weeks before are they really trimming down?
Doesn't it depend on where they're at before?
Yeah, it depends. Yeah. It depends on how fat they were when they started. Did they go crazy with their bulk, or did they keep things a little more trim in their improvement season when they were putting on size? So obviously that's going to be a very individual thing. But usually people don't have to go low until maybe the last 6 to 8 weeks. But again, if you kept yourself a little bit leaner in your improvement season, you don't have to suffer as much. Now, you do have to put on a certain amount of body fat in a healthy level to gain new tissue, but just like anything, there's a balance to it. If you're just getting 40, 50 pounds over stage weight, you're only going to make yourself have to suffer on the back end. So that's not a worthy investment, in my opinion. For the extra ounce of muscle you may gain, now you're going to have to diet harder to get all that fat off. You're probably going to lose that little ounce of tissue anyway. So it's a net zero change at that point.
True. I completely agree. I didn't really ever think that it took 6 to 8 weeks to get that lean. But again,
I just mean that's
where they're starting. Yeah, no, I'm just really surprised that it.
No, I was gonna say I think that was misunderstood. So I was saying that's probably when they have to get pretty nitty gritty with their calories. So the entire prep may be 16 to 20 weeks long.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say prep's a lot longer. It's just when you have to start getting crazy with it. And that's dependent on how far you've gotten in those first 8 weeks.
Right. Like, how much progress did you make in that time frame?
Yeah. Like, if you're ahead of schedule, like, I know that you've got clients who always get themselves ahead of schedule, and you're like,
all right, we just kind of chill. Now. Yeah.
Chill.
Yeah. Honestly, some people can get away with eating up into a show. They can almost reverse diet their way into a show if they really did things to a T. I've done this before a little bit in the past, where you actually get to have a little bit more food going into the show to, elicit fuller muscles, top off your glycogen stores and just have better workouts leading up to the show, because you did the work of getting lean enough prior to the show date actually being here. So now I'm not going to continue to beat that body into a deficit because they're already really, really lean. and that body is now sensitive. So we're now maybe going to eat up a little bit in the show because they can get away with it. But that's a more rare case of somebody who's actually good at getting themselves in shape first. People need to worry about being in shape first before they can before they can do that.
True. And I feel like the discipline that goes into just bodybuilding in general, when you're actually trying to work on your physique, is kind of something that goes into your whole life, right? Like, what difference have you seen in your own life when you started incorporating the discipline to hold to a certain calories, to hold to certain workouts, and not give in to the temptation of everything?
Well, name a person of great influence who isn't consistent in their abilities to execute. I think that's the exact definition. Bodybuilding kind of encapsulates, in my opinion, from the outside, it's the essence of consistency and commitment. Because you don't get those fucking results if you don't put that work in.
100%. But I'm gonna take a slightly different approach to that answer though, because it's funny you said that. So obviously there's the element of consistency and execution and discipline that comes with it, but I think, and I've kind of felt this from personal experience, that bodybuilding runs better when it's in the background, not the foreground. And that kind of confuses people because people think, oh, I have to be 100% 24/7 on the grind. And you do, but it just comes to executing your plan and making sure life still goes on around you. So at the end of the day, I lose money on shows because I'm spending money to travel,
right,
organization things. So, bodybuilding doesn't put food on the table for me. It's something that I love to do. And obviously now as my coaching, it's a little bit of a marketing tool to make sure that, coach can produce for himself. But
yeah,
it's not the end all be all. If I couldn't bodybuild tomorrow, I still have, my wife and baby upstairs. I still have, all my clients to take care of and my job and, personal relationships and things like that. So I always try to tell people have, bodybuilding be a harmony for your life. Don't let it be, the main piece of music, because it can chew you up and spit you back out if you let it overconsume you. So while yes, you do need to execute your plan and you do need to make sure you get your workouts in and your meals in and your cardio in and your steps in and your sleep in and your water in and all those things. And that can sound overwhelming, but you need to also prioritize life as well, because, in my earlier stages of bodybuilding, before I met my amazing wife, I actually ruined a couple relationships on bodybuilding because it consumed me. And it was the only thing that mattered. And you could just argue that I probably didn't have the right person yet, which was true.
I was just going to say that.
So I just didn't have the right person in my corner yet. But so last year,
well, I mean, your wife even competes, so she understands too.
She gets it, yeah. But last year was just the most phenomenal prep I've ever had because I was just, bodybuilding was just sort of happening in the background, and I was just checking boxes every day. Yeah. And because I knew the boxes that I had to check, but it was about being, so this is when my wife was pregnant. It was about being the best husband I could to her, making sure she got everything she needed and just taking care of my clients and doing everything I had to do there. And it was the smoothest prep I ever had because I worried so little about bodybuilding.
So last year when you were in prep, you still had your gym open last year during your last prep.
Correct.
Hometown. So I always ask this question, because I have a couple of friends who own gyms who are also who also compete. They don't like training out of their gym. Did you work out at your gym primarily for your prep, or did you train somewhere else? Because I get it. You don't want to be stopped every 5 seconds, or you kind of just want to innocuously get through your workout and just do your thing. But it's also shit, I own a gym. Why am I paying somebody else a gym membership?
Exactly. So there were times I did step away. I did do a majority of the training out of my own gym. But you're absolutely right. There were days where I would just have to kind of walk away into my office because I wanted to my fuse was ready to go. And I just sort of had to step back and be like, okay, what really matters here? Don't do this.
You're hungry. You want to work out.
Hungry. I'm tired. Yeah. And the training is often the only, I would say alone time you get, but that's like your hour where you can, have that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual release. And it gets a little difficult. So there were times I did step away and train elsewhere just so I could, put the hoodie and the headphones on and not be seen. But it does make it pretty difficult. And, not for nothing, this is no knock on, the members that we had at Hometown or anything like that. And, I loved my gym, but, and this is on me. It wasn't set up in a way where it was bodybuilding centric. Not that it has to be a bodybuilding
Sure.
gym. It was just a different
No, I
kind of
get it.
community.
Yeah, 100%. Well, it's
you know,
because that's
where
what it was before, right? Wasn't it kind of the community gym before you guys took possession of it?
it was more community, group fitness classes, things like
Yeah.
that. And granted, like all of my clients and people that knew me closely were hyping me up and getting me, you know, like asking me how many weeks I had and, you know, wishing me good luck and things like that. Not that I need those things. So I'm pretty self-motivated, but it was a different kind of community where there were really no other competitors of any regard.
Gotcha.
Or nobody that understood the competitive mindset to the
Like
fullest.
where you were, like where your brain was at that moment in time. They couldn't kind of get on your landscape.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So it's just different.
Because I get why, like, I know we have a lot of powerlifters at all of our gyms, and while we have powerlifting stuff for them, like we bought it for them, right? We built spaces. I always kind of found it interesting, like people are, like they're willing to drive 4 to 6 hours to go to these gyms outside of the state on weekends just to go work out, not even to compete.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's really just the culture. It's a culture thing. So I get it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you went somewhere where they had a little bit more of it around you. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Were you more interested in the training aspect or like the business running a gym aspect? Because before you used to have a gym. So did you just not like the business side of it? Was it just not something you were ready for at the time? How would you kind of talk about that?
So to kind of go through the history of the gym, it was one of those sort of right place, right time moments is sort of how it came to be. And this is, so I'll try to give you the clip notes of this story because it can kind of get a little lengthy, but long story short, I had graduated college in December of 2016, and the whole thing or the whole plan was my father and I were going to go into the fitness business together. He lives down in Florida, so I was starting to pack and ready to move to Florida. I was really close. I had already given my notice to my former employer, who was Tilton Fitness at the time. Local area gym. They had a few area gyms down here in South Jersey and then a few up north. So I'd given my notice to them. I was starting to pack my things, and they offered to sell their Mays Landing location to us. And I'm from Mays Landing, so it's, hence how the gym name Hometown Health and Fitness came to be, because it's my hometown. And they offered to sell to us. So went to my father, talked it out with him. We talked it out with them. And 4 months later, we ended up buying the gym from them. So no leaving for Florida for me. Thankfully, that ended up happening because I wouldn't have met my wife otherwise. And my life could have taken a whole different path. There's a whole alternate universe that never happened there. And
You're in Florida.
I'm so thankful it never happened. Yeah.
I met
So
my wife because I got fired from my last job. Best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah. So it took a whole turn. And, to be honest, the gym was, we took over a failing business. It was, not cash flow positive when we took it over. And we got it to a spot where we were starting to turn in the right direction and actually starting to make something of it. And then, in 2020, the infamous COVID shutdowns happened and really just kicked us right in the teeth, because we were operating on limited resources as it was, and, really just keeping things pretty trim to get it to that spot. And then just got absolutely, beat down from COVID and never really were able to recover. Just with our
like hundreds, if not thousands of other gyms probably, around the fucking country, dude.
Exactly.
Multiple I mean, that's not the only business either. A lot of industries.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, salons, restaurants. I mean, every small business in America, like a real small business. I'm not talking about categorizing Home Depot as a small business, but like every small business in America had to have been impacted in a negative way, even before it went positive again. Like it just, I can't see how they couldn't have. But yeah, dude, I get it. This industry was crippled along with other ones by COVID. So continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And then, that kind of really made me realize. So as we were then coming to the end of our lease, which was, due to be up, what was that? At the end of June, this past year, we got out a few months prior because we just decided to liquidate, close up, and get out of there. But as we were kind of coming to the end of it. Exactly. Yeah, that's how I got connected with you, which was, again, one of those things like how this jump into my life and help me out. But, it just kind of was, again, right place, right time. And, thankful that I was able to find you. But it really made me think about what I loved in the fitness business. And it all sort of came into perspective when our daughter was born, because there was just a lot of time sitting in the hospital and thinking. Because then as soon as that baby comes out, your whole life really goes into perspective and go, okay, one, I need to make money. and I need to make a living so I can support my family. But two, I can't be miserable going to work every day. Now, granted,
it definitely changes your why.
Yeah.
Your why. We talk about it all the time. It's so important. I get fucking emotional about it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the why
that
changes.
why is everything. Yep.
So,
and that's a real good spot to fucking find a new why in the hospital.
You're right in the hospital. I'm
It's
holding
better than
a
in the
brand new
bar.
baby.
It's
And
better
I'm
than
thinking,
the fuck yeah, it is.
right. And I'm thinking, what the hell am I going to do with my life? So that was really the point where I decided, you know what? My passion, and I know this, is in training and coaching. And I had thought back in 2017 when we purchased that owning a gym would be the best route to do that. And I realized that's not the case. My skill set is not as an owner operator. It's just not. I did okay, but that's not A, what I love to do, and B, where my skill set is best used. My passion is in training and coaching. So I needed to find a way to do that.
The gym was supposed to be gasoline for you for that, right?
Correct.
And it turned into shit. I don't get the gasoline because I didn't know the shit rolls uphill when I own a business, not downhill.
Oh yeah.
But like, so I get it, man. I mean, when you reached out to me and we showed up, like that was our first time actually meeting. I could tell that you loved the gym. There wasn't an issue of that whatsoever. I think the ability for spaces that weren't on like a high vis main drag road post COVID, I think it just changed everybody's. People just didn't go back, or they just stopped going to the gym. A lot of people just stopped because
I think that's part of it too.
The aging demographic. I mean, I think the status is like 27 to 33% of them even went back to the fitness after the fact, over 65. It's just like, it's insane. So the 75% of the aging population that was trying to keep themselves together just stopped because of this. I mean, it's alarming. Well, it's also, I mean, look at how much they were told during shutdowns. If you're old and frail, don't go outside, wear 2 masks, get 5 jabs. Like, and if they wanted to do that, that's their choice to do it. But I'm saying, like, that was fucking everywhere. And now they're starting to dial it back saying, well, should we have done all this? Well, masks we already know don't work. So it's a mask is the same as trying to catch a fart. Like, again.
Yeah, we really lost like the primal aspect of like that we're kind of just animals, and like we kind of have to do things to survive and thrive, not just sit inside, take whatever you're told, and kind of exist. I guess I think that's kind of the big difference between living and existing.
But what I was trying to, and I agree. But what I was trying to say was, I think that because of COVID, that's why a lot of the people that you were servicing before, well, like you guys had got the space to make a small profit and to not have such a churn, and then COVID happens and it completely disrupts what your business plan was, because that space was built and really predicated around serving that population. Like you said, it wasn't a bodybuilding gym; it was a fitness center. And so I think COVID, that's just what happens. But then I think we turned the frown upside down, though. We were able to kind of fix it, and now not only have you, I think you're kind of flourishing, don't you?
I would say so now. It's crazy how a lot can change. As I think back to sitting in that hospital, she was born January 22nd of this year. Sitting in the hospital, not able to pay myself from the gym because things were just in that bad of a way at that point. It was, drawing nothing from the gym. So I'm thinking, okay, how do I support this family? To now, being able to, kind of thrive out of your brigantine location there. It's quite a turnaround in less than a year. I'm pretty damn proud of it.
And I love
so
that.
How do you get from there to there? Like a lot of people, they get hit and then they stay down. How do you not stay down? How do you get back up and get to the point where you're now thriving again?
Well, again, it's that perspective in the hospital, man. Holding that brand newborn and thinking to myself, okay, I'm not able to make a living right now to support my family, and that really just, not that there wasn't a fire under my ass before, because obviously we all want to make something of ourselves, but holding that baby, man, really, really just changed everything. It really just said, okay, this needs to change now, and I need to just execute. Obviously, closing the gym was probably one of the harder decisions I've ever had to make. But the day it was finally all said and done, and we handed like the final check to the landlord, it was just this weight off the shoulders, and it all went away, and it just immediately was, okay, this is the best thing I could have done for myself.
And Steve, one of our closest gyms to him was our new Northfield location. So he kind of was perfect for us to kind of assimilate into each other's life at that moment in time. So he came over to Northfield with a lot of his clients who just they won't go anywhere else, which is it speaks a lot to any trainers, not just yours, but any trainers where your clients are willing to kind of we're not by closest gym, we're probably like a 7.5 to 8.5 mile drive, so probably 15 minutes in the car. That's not normal. That's not normal for the market that we service. So I think that's a testament to who you are as a coach. And then since then, I think you've been able to even grow, which is great.
Yeah.
There's, you know.
Do you think yourself more as like a coach or a trainer? What do you kind of consider yourself?
I mean, the word's interchangeable there, but
Yeah.
I like to think of myself, more as a problem solver for somebody.
Okay.
So, of course, as trainers, we probably hear more than we should, but it's the same as, the person who does your hair or anything like that. It's that person who I'm seeing, it's their half hour, their hour away from life where they can decompress and where they can, the gym's a safe space for people. And this is something we argued profusely during the COVID shutdowns. To tie it back to that is that the gym's not just a physical outlet for people. It's a mental, emotional, and spiritual outlet for people. And, because a lot of people said, oh, you can just work out at home. And yeah, if that's what you enjoy, you can get a workout at home. But man, the gym's a sanctuary for a lot of people. And
well, I mean, for over 100 years, they've said that it makes you healthier.
Yeah.
And so just that right there alone should have been enough of an argument for him to stay open. And I'm not saying that as a gym owner. I'm saying that as somebody who likes to work out and who, I think it was ridiculous that something that we've been told since childhood, hence fucking gym class and PE, is good for us. We're taught this in elementary and primary and kindergarten.
Yeah.
Run around. It's good for you. Do pull-ups, lift your body weight. I mean, all that shit is good for you.
Move.
But you can't do it because of COVID. No, it's not good for you anymore. It's very dangerous, in fact. It must be at least 6 feet away.
Yeah, besides the health aspect, you got the mental health aspect of it. And
I think
people are going to recover from that.
Yeah, and that's the reason I think I think trainers are again just a necessary evil in somebody's life, or it's not just for exercise. A lot of times for clients, sometimes they might need to vent, or sometimes they just need an escape from their work or just the world in general. And that's why we're more than trainers and coaches. Sometimes it's someone that they can trust and someone that's there to help them. So right.
You're not judging them, because the only judgment that we have is if you don't, as my opinion, at least when I train clients, is my only judgment I ever pass on clients is if they don't show up and they don't put the effort out. Anything else that you want to say or do while we're working out, if you got to get it off your chest, whatever, if you want to be silent for the 45 minutes to an hour, I don't give a fuck. We're still going to work, because that's why I train you. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And I want you to leave a better person than you came in the door. And that's it.
You came to me with a goal, besides just the mental health aspect. You came to me with a goal of getting to X or Y. And so we're going to do that regardless.
Right.
So go ahead. You hear it all. You really do hear it all.
Oh yeah.
It's none of it's ever like, there's nothing like the vicious about any of it. It's just kind of like people open up. It's like raw.
Yeah. But I feel like we need that
cool.
as people.
It's cool. It's cool with me. I've never mind.
You need somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody needs somebody.
Yeah.
And we are that somebody. Yeah. As trainers and coaches, we are that somebody for a lot of people. And that I carry a heavy duty on my shoulders for that. So yeah, like I guess when you go back to am I a trainer or coach, I'm a little bit of both, but we're not just trainers and coaches. We are, people that help people become the best version of themselves. And I take great responsibility with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the keys that people use to build a superior version of themselves?
It's a good one. Are you saying people in general, or more for me?
Just in general. I'm saying, like, you work with a lot of people. You've trained people who are trying to get ready for a show. You've trained people who are just training for life. What are some of the keys that keeps them going to build that superior version of themselves? Like showing up, like executing, daily execution. I mean, there's certain keys that seem to align to make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I think
don't read the sign behind Steve's head, because I'm looking.
It's a big sacrifice. You have some hard work.
You gotta, because those are all beautiful answers. Steve, just move to the left.
No. I can't steal that. Damn it. No, I'm going to tie it back into real training. Because the two kind of pillars that I stand by with my training in life is execution and learning. So we talked about it earlier. It's just actually getting in there and doing the work. and being willing to execute. Now, that obviously does come with some thought process and making sure you actually have a plan. But to a certain extent, man, you just got to do the work. You just got to get in there, And too many people are scared to do the work nowadays. I think too many people are just scared to work, because they want to make sure everything's perfect, or they're scared that people might judge them or this and that. And you just have to be willing to execute and be yourself in that regard. And then the always learning portion is just constantly tweaking your approach and constantly revising it and making sure that you're never the smartest person in the room. Surrounding yourself with people that can offer something, or always being willing to take, opinions, criticism, things like that. Of course, from people you respect. You're not taking opinions from everybody and not letting them get to you, but making sure that you stay learning and keeping your brain sharp, because things are always evolving. Yeah.
You said something to one of your professional athletes that you trained in a recent competition, and that didn't go your guys' way. Arguably, my opinion, for whatever it's worth, it should have. But you said it's not losses, it's lessons. So it's almost similar to what we say about failing. It's not failing, it's falling forward. Like, we've learned what not to do, so now we're on step 2. We're not starting back at step 1. So I think that kind of goes hand in hand.
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing to say to a client athlete who's professional, who that keeps people on like the right path moving forward. It's not like, hey, we didn't lose. We learned here. We learned what we need to do next time. And we also learned that while we disagree, we still won. Of course.
And the other thing I said to that athlete too, and this applies to life as well, but it really ties into bodybuilding, is having a short memory. So not only when you lose, quote unquote, or if you didn't get the outcome you desired. So let's tie this into from business with me. I could have sat there and and dwelled on the fact that my gym closed, but I jumped right in and got back to work. Granted in the same industry, but just getting back to work. And it's important to have that short memory when you have success as well, because if you constantly live off the high of your success, you'll never strive for more. So
Great.
you have to keep going. And the short memory works in the same way in bodybuilding. That's why I told this athlete that we didn't get the outcome we wanted. Okay, short memory. We're going to move on to a different show and a different panel of judges. It really is. They say in football, it's any given Sunday. In bodybuilding, it's any given Saturday. So, just show up ready. And even when bodybuilders win, I tell them, congratulations, but short memory, because you could turn up at a show next weekend and get waxed by better competitors standing next to you. So, don't live off the highs and don't dwell on the lows.
Yeah, I think everything's in life is kind of about tweaking. Every time you try something, you do well. Okay, let me tweak it so I can do better. If you fail, you tweak it so that you do better next time. But I feel like too many people are either scared to fail because they're scared to be talked about, or they're scared of all the bullshit that goes along with it, and they just never start. And then I always try to look at it from the aspect of, at 80, are you going to regret trying and failing, or are you going to regret not doing it, saying I could have done this? Because I don't think any of us want to be the guy at 80 saying I could have started this, and this, but I didn't because fucking Joe Blow.
Exactly. Yeah, and that ties back to the execution point, behind me there. It's about not being afraid to fail and not being afraid of what other people are going to think of you. Just get out there and execute.
Yeah, I mean, think it was people. I know that personally. How many people have told my wife and I after opening our first gym that we were, like crazy enough. That was crazy, whatever. And then we're like, oh, we're going to keep opening them. We're going to expand. They're like, why? It's COVID. It's never going to work. If the only person that you need to listen to about what you want to do and how you're going to get there is really yourself, as long as you know it's not going to hurt you or your family more than financially, because there's risk in everything that we do. If it's only financial risk and it's not going to be personal or physical, then financial risk can be mitigated with a strong business plan and just thinking through the why and then outperforming it. Like you went to school for business management, right?
Correct.
It's all about having preparation, being prepared, a SWOT chart. Where are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? How are we going to answer these when somebody who wants to invest in us down the road asks us this very question? Is what we're doing investable? Does it serve a need in our general area? Like simple things. If people are like, oh, I just want to open a business, and that's their only thought plan, that's their only path to getting there is I want to open a business, and then they quit their job to go and do that, the chances of success are very fucking low.
How long was your gym open?
We were open for just under 6 years.
So you're open for 6 years. You owning it, where you were there for 6 years?
Yes. So we purchased
Okay.
July of 2017, and then our last day was March 31st of this year.
And how long
you
was it,
think-
Jim, before that?
Say again.
How long was it Tilted or the other company before that?
Whew. Had to be 15, 20 years prior. I mean,
Yeah.
that gym
Yeah.
had been there. That had been an existing space for a while.
Do you think you learned more from going to school for business or running the gym business?
Running the gym business 100%. So my father and I, not that my degree wasn't important. I don't I don't want to say that at all. But we joke about it because him and I going to business together. A little background on my father, who I was in business with. He owned a few businesses in the automotive industry. He owned his own transmission shop, then sold that and went into remanufacturing. Then went into auto parts from there, and just kind of made a good living with all that, and sold all of his companies, cashed out, and now he's down in Florida. So he did it. He did what he set out to do. But he didn't go to business school. He just had that mentality and that savvy and that mindset. And the whole deal for us going into business together was me getting the degree that he never did. And we joke about it now because obviously reflecting back on it, not that I didn't learn anything in school, but I learned more by actually doing. And I think that's with everything. That tied back into bodybuilding as well. Yes, I have all of my certifications. I'm an ISSA elite trainer. I'm this and that. And I've done all my own anecdotal research, but I've learned the most from doing, from actually applying things in the gym or applying things when it comes to nutrition, trial and error with myself, with clients.
Yeah.
You have to learn by doing. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's the same thing with financial. Like somebody who goes to finance school and does all this and has all these degrees. It's like, do you want to take advice from them if they're making 50 grand, or the guy who's been doing this for 20 years making a couple million but doesn't have the degree? I mean, They're both good, but at the same time, obviously, experience is always going to win.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's that real life experience, and that they've built something, proved something. And again, even the mistakes that we made at the gym, tied back earlier, it's lessons that I've learned, not necessarily losses. So there, of course, sure, there were financial losses on paper, but I learned the lessons that I learned from those things helped me be the man that I am today, and the coach that I am today, and the businessman that I am. Because I'm still a business owner. It's just not it's not a brick and mortar location. So it's still applying those lessons that I learned from owning the gym to what I do now.
You're still rolling with the punches of it.
Yep.
Also, do you believe that space would have still been open had COVID not happened to shut you down?
Absolutely. I think I'd still be there today, 100%.
So,
we were
exactly.
trending in the upward direction, and
that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't gyms take a long fucking time to turn into a space to make profitable. So like you were in that margin of time where like profitable to the point where I'm saying like, okay, now we can go open 2 or 3 more at one time, whatever. You were in that margin of time where like you guys were trending on the upwards, and then you're told, okay, well, you can't do this anymore. It's not like it was a business that was killed by you from your own actions. It was a business that was a victim of circumstance, along with hundreds and thousands of other businesses across the country during that time.
For sure.
I just think you being able to take that on the chin, and then on a Friday sell your business, watch it get parted out on a Saturday, which was good because that was helpful, but then start anew on Monday, and then walk in with all your with clients and people who were following you, so that you weren't just sitting there trying to sell yourself. You didn't have to, because you already had a book that you were able to not put back into your business. You were putting your training money into your overhead of your gym.
Yep. Yeah, I was training for the sole reason to keep my gym open. Yeah,
I thought it was truly commendable, but I'm so happy that that's no longer the case.
Yeah, and that was another thing that kind of, so obviously the main perspective gained, in that hospital time where I was holding my daughter. But when we sat down and just looked at it, the fact that I was training as a means of keeping the gym open made me not hate it, because I still loved what I did, but it made me scratch my head. Why am I not getting compensated for the work that I do, and not being cocky? I know I'm good at. So why
it's not
am
a startup anymore? You don't compensate during a startup. You were past that phase. So no, dude, you taking all your training, and you train a lot of fucking people. You training to put into overhead. As soon as you told me that, I was there with my wife and Bo I was like, no, we can fix this. We can fix this for you, dude. Like, let us help. So I think that was huge. Also, I thought it was huge that you even reached out for help because, like I said, you and I had never met to that point. You called me once when I was building one of our locations, and it wasn't good timing for us. And then almost a year later, you kind of called again, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's have this conversation. It was great, just good timing.
And I'm damn thankful that I did because it landed me in a beautiful location now and able to do what I love for a living. Wake up friggin' excited to go to work, and everything happens for a reason. So yeah, if COVID never happened, we would probably still be in the gym space. But would I be loving what I'm doing? Because
right. Well, that's the other question. Like, yeah, you don't know what
right.
you don't know.
Yeah. So
if you're making money, you're loving it. If you're putting all your money and all your sweat and all the equity you should be taking back out into paying the electric, no, who's going to fucking love that?
Right. But now even still, when the gym was doing better, looking back to the pre-COVID times, I mean, just like, you are, and you especially were when you first started your locations, you're there 24/7. And now with a newborn daughter, I have the ability and the flexibility to, okay, let me put all of my in-person clients in the morning and early afternoon hours. My wife's a teacher. She gets done around 3-4 o'clock. And now we can have family time every night. And I don't have to worry about the front desk person calling out, the roof leaking, this or that. That's going to take me away from my family time. And yes, my online work gets done, but I can put that where it needs to go. I can, put our daughter to bed, then come down in my, little basement space here and get my online work done because that's flexible. I can do that on my own time. So now having that flexibility, I wouldn't trade that for the world because that hour or two at night that we can all spend together as a family, you're right. You can't buy that back, and you can't pay me any amount of money to step away from my wife and my daughter, and can't forget my dog. But you can't pay me to step away from my family at that time. That's just a non-negotiable for me, and that's like you said, you can't buy that time back. And watching her be able to grow and be able to have dinner as a family every night is a blessing. So, and I wouldn't be doing that if I was probably still owning the gym, because I would still probably be there in some capacity. So having the ability now to tailor my schedule so I can still have that family time is perfect.
What are the qualities that you're trying to instill into your kids for them to grow up by? You know what I mean? What are some of the things you're really I want to make sure that my daughter understands this, and this. This is what our family lives by. This is how she's going to operate.
That's a really good one. So it's a couple things actually that mom always told me growing up, and it's funny enough now that mom and I still work together in capacity because you were gracious enough to give mom a home for training as well, which is I thank you forever for that because she's doing what she loves as well.
She loves what she's doing. She's happy.
She's awesome.
Yeah, all of her clients love her.
Yeah, but a couple things from mom always growing up were do unto others as you have them do unto you. So just being kind, treating others the way that you want to be treated. Was always a big one for her growing up. I'm hoping I don't butcher this because I sometimes stumble over my words, but she was big on the serenity prayer as well. So accepting the things you cannot change, the courage, the things that you can, and the wisdom to know the difference. That was a really big one for her. And
can you say that one more time? I kind of lost you for a second there.
Yeah. Hear it. So it's the serenity prayer. Not that I'm overly religious, but that was one that mom always went with. So it was God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And
I like
that was one that I always came back to, and especially in the times, in the time where we were in the process of closing up the gym, that was a huge one for me because for a while leading up to having that conversation with you and you kind of leading us down the right path of getting us out of there, I thought closing the gym would be impossible. I didn't think it was something that I could change. So It was at that time finding the courage to do that. And then again, the wisdom to know the difference between the things that you can't change and the things that you can. And sometimes that can be really hard for people. It took a lot to come to that decision, but again, once it all came through, it was the best thing. So, that's one I definitely want our daughter, and if we have more children down the road, that's something I definitely want them to always know. And then, the last one's kind of one I came to more recently is, it's a Steve Jobs quote. It's the only way to do good work is to love what you do. And
I agree with
that's finally the spot that I'm in now, is loving what I do. I thought I did before, because I thought, again, owning the gym would be the right pathway to being able to do what I love, which is training people. But it wasn't for me. It wasn't the right move. And now I'm in a spot where I am doing what I love, and I feel like I'm doing the best work I ever had in my life. So making sure my kids understand that is a big one, because I want them to enjoy their life.
Yeah, if you got to do shitty work for a little bit, just understand that this isn't forever, and don't get stuck in that job. That's like a lot of things I
Right.
tell young people. Look to take a certain job, and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm going to take this, and now I'm going to get an apartment. I'm going to get a car." And I'm like, "Stop all of that. Do not
Yeah.
do all of that.
Yeah.
Get the job,
Pump the
make the money
brakes.
while you're
Yeah.
looking and learning for what you really want to do. And then once you get to that point, start looking at these things. But you build your life now around this job you hate, and you can't fucking leave it. You're just trapped."
And look, we all do jobs we hate sometimes. Like I worked in my dad's,
Oh, yeah.
remanufacturing
Yeah.
plants when I was in the summers. And yeah, did I like, tearing down auto parts and shipping and receiving? No, it was boring. But it allowed me to make a little money and kind of stash that aside. And, all those little dollars and cents went into eventually the investment for a gym. So it worked
Steve,
for something.
You talked about this before too with financial literacy in school. I really do feel like there needs to be more of a push for these kids to be taught how money works and should be handled. Financial literacy is not taught at all until you get to college, and that's if you take the class.
Yeah, I mean, health isn't either.
I know.
We all know
yeah,
that. So it's kind of, that's why,
But
I always ask now, what are you trying to teach your kids? Because we're having kids, you guys already have kids. So everything now is about, okay, what can we teach our kids to make sure that they don't make the mistakes we make, and that maybe they help other kids along the way, because we're headed in a shitty direction in the world, basically. And hopefully with enough good people doing good shit, we can turn this whole train around and get more people to become better and grow. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, we were talking about the show with somebody once before, and what we're kind of doing on top of what do we want to teach our kids is this also does serve as a really nice time capsule of just their parents. Hey, listen, they can go back and watch these whenever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. So yeah, that's something
So
else.
I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything that we kind of missed that you really wanted to jump into before we close out?
I mean, I think we covered a lot of good stuff. I think we got to a lot of the root causes of the whys of things. So a lot of people can just, looking from the outside in, maybe not understand things a lot of the time. So that's the biggest one I got when we were closing up the gym was why. Do you really want to know why? Are you sure about that? And people come. It's coming from a good place. A lot of people overwhelmingly were saying sorry that the gym closed, and I wanted to tell them you do not have to say sorry. I promise. So it's just
but you know what? It's nice though because
it's coming from a good place.
Yeah, they cared and they didn't know that, it's good when you let the members know your personal situation when it's a bad one or a dire one. It just makes the whole space. You guys did a really, really, really good job with making sure that crisis was mitigated until the last minute. Because I've been in gyms that have been trying to be saved that I'm like, guys, you've already told all your people that this is a burning ship and they've all gone or they're ready to leave. This, I can help, but we're going to have to change everything: the name, the company, the management, the equipment. It's not going to be an investment. Yeah, for you guys.
I was going to say one of the big things with me. So if you recall from back, we had an offer from actually Steve of Super Fitness to come buy everything cash on the spot, but he was going to come literally the next day.
Right.
And I pumped the brakes on that because for me, from an integrity standpoint, I wasn't going to pull the rug out from our members because they didn't even know yet. So there was two different options. It was either we can sign the auction contract to have it, posted, bidding 6 weeks, and we'll close at the end of March. Or you have Steve's cash offer. You can take the cash right now, get out of there. You're done tomorrow. And obviously being done tomorrow is very sexy because I can get the hell out of here. But to me, I wasn't going to do that from the integrity side. And also my exit strategy was, still training a lot of these people. So I'm not just going to pull the rug out from under them and say, hey, your life has to change tomorrow. This is our bed. We're going to lay in it. So we're going to take the route where we're going to take 6 weeks. We're going to do the auction route. And, we ended up doing well at auction. We could have made a little bit more if we did the cash offer, but that
You would have burned bridges for no reason other than
exactly.
Yeah.
So that wasn't going to be it for me. So it's interesting that you bring that up. So it was like, you know, and nobody knows that until now.
Oh, I know.
That was between
Hey.
like me and Pops until now. But
Always doing the
now it's
right
all out
thing
there.
is
Who
gonna.
cares?
Always doing the right thing is never gonna lead you wrong.
Integrity, you know, and it's not
Yeah.
like I didn't need to tell anybody that. It just kind of fit
Well,
with the
that's what
conversation.
integrity
But
is. It's doing the
Yeah.
right thing when nobody's looking. So
yeah,
that's 100% the definition of it, in my opinion. So it's doing the right thing when nobody knows about it or is looking. So you guys
Yeah.
did that on the behalf of your people.
yeah,
That's why it works. That's why
yeah.
it works.
All right, I'm gonna close it out. I appreciate your time, man.
Likewise,
I
thank
look
you guys for
forward
having
to
me. I
talking
really
again.
appreciate
How
it.
do
Oh,
how
yeah.
can people find you? What do you want?
So
social
I am
media?
on primarily Instagram when it comes to social media. So my personal Instagram is more my bigger one because I've just had more time to build that up. So it's just at Joe _ my last name lacerra LACERRA. And then if you click in my bio, you'll see the real training page as well, which is just real _ training. So that you can find me on both